Today on 7th Circle Gaming, we analyze the early access game Captain of Industry. And after a bit of full disclosure, which you're welcome to read through, just pause the video and read through it, we'll take a look at a couple of screenshots. In our first screenshot for today, we're going to talk very briefly about the overworld map. There isn't an awful lot to say about it, other than each of the icons represented by a small circle at the center of the screen will either provide the player with additional resources or is some place that the player can trade resources with. Now then, let's move on to our next screenshot. In this screenshot, we're going to talk about the world of the game and the user interface. The world of Captain of Industry is rendered in a fairly genre-standard way for the city builder genre, although it is frankly zoomable and rotatable to an impressive degree. On the other hand, the user interface is fairly minimalistic. It does have options to increase the complexity for players that are interested in that additional information, but it isn't really required to interact with that. At the top of our screen, we have the economic and social indicators as well as the system menu. Just below that, at the top left-hand corner, is the notifications bar. At the far right-hand corner of the screen, we have an additional economic indicator, but that's really not essential and it doesn't appear all throughout the game. At the bottom of the screen, we have the primary context-sensitive menu, also known as the build menu, and at the lower left-hand corner, we have the options for overlays as well as the destroy or delete button. Moving on, players that are familiar with the survival crafting or city builder genre should expect or have come to expect some sort of a research tree. And Captain of Industry is no exception to this rule. The one offered by this game is impressively long and rather impressively large, and it should take players that are not rushing to the very end of it a significant amount of time to get every technology researched. So that's all of the screenshots we have for you. Let's move on now to our first proper chapter, which is, as it usually is, Immersion. Here the game has earned a very slightly below average, although we could say it is leaning more toward the good than the bad. 7 out of 15. We don't have a lot of additional notes on this page other than to add that players may choose to add to immersion by challenge the category of puzzle solving. And now then, let's move on to difficulty. Here the game has earned a very average 7.5 out of 15. The game has genre standard controls, it does have a tutorial, and there are several options to customize difficulty, although how those will impact gameplay is not very well described. The user interface is, as we said earlier, really as complex as the player wants to interact with. Some players may choose not to interact with it at all or really customize everything. Other players will want to get into absolutely micromanaging, and the game will support both play styles. Now then, let's move on to lasting appeal. Here the game has earned in its current state a below average 5 out of 15. Now it is an early access game, so we don't expect any mods or DLC available, and that should change as the game nears its final release and continues to mature. There are several maps to choose from, although in all of our play sessions we couldn't find a significant amount of difference among them, other than some resources were significantly more limited than others. It does support any length play session and will fully embrace the idea of coming back to the game after a day or two of letting the game sit. Players, on the other hand, can retry the game on different difficulty settings or combinations of difficulty. And with all that out of the way, let's now move on and combine everything into the overall score. Overall, in its current state, Captain of Industry has earned a slightly below average, although we could say that should increase as the game matures, a 6.5 out of 15. And if that wasn't subjective enough, we do have a couple of subjective statements coming up, so please have your salt handy. The tutorial pushed us through the research tree faster than we absolutely had to. It's entirely possible to linger at a lower level of the tree and be perfectly happy enjoying the game. The game is likewise not for everyone. Some players will spend hours if not days playing through the game and completely lose track of time. Others will find only boredom in this game and be quitting and uninstalling it, or even asking for a refund after about 10 minutes. We could describe the game as Anno Light, since it does lack some of the complexity, but in losing that complexity, it has gained in approachability. And that really is all there is about Captain of Industry from us here at 7th Circle Gaming. We thank everyone who watched all the way to the end of the video, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Goodbye.